Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ti and this is Irie Gardener, and for today's video we're going to be discussing how you can start onions from seeds and be successful. Before we get into it, I want you guys to check your seed packets. If you already have seed packets, go ahead and check the date on the seed packets. If your seeds are maybe a year to 2 years old, you may run into low germination. Onions are one of those seeds that as the years goes on, the germination rate drastically falls. So you guys saw that I dealt with that last season with some of my seeds, and I already went ahead and planted out all my later seeds. So the seeds that I'm using for this planting will be from last year, and I have some coming for this year. So make sure that you are checking the back. If you have some seeds that are more than a year or two old, I'll go ahead and just repurchase some newer seeds. If this is your first time growing onion seeds, you want to make sure that you are buying the correct type. They actually divided up the map for what type of onion seeds that you should be purchasing based on the area that you live. There's long day onions that needs I think 14 to 16 hours of daylight in order to bulb up. Then you have your day neutral or your intermediate day onions, and those needs about 12 to 14 hours of daylight. And then you have your short day onions that need 10 to 12 hours of daylight. Now it's when should we get them in the soil and get going indoors. And I would say you should get your seeds started around 8 to 10 weeks before your last frost date. But you could actually start your onion seeds as far as 16 weeks before your last frost date. So for me here in zone 7B, my expected last frost date is April 7th. So I could have started my onions all the way back to the middle of December, but I think starting it now in week 12 should work perfect. So as far as what soil medium to use for your onion seeds, I would highly recommend just going ahead and using potting soil. Just find your basic potting soil and sift out all the barks and larger chunks out of that, and use that to start your seeds, especially because you're going to be keeping them indoor for such a long period. You want the soil to give some type of nutrients to your seedling. I would say do not use soil from outside or even your compost, because you can be introducing pests indoors, and there's no beneficial insects indoors to combat those pests. So I would refrain from doing that. After deciding what mix to use, I like to pre-dampen my soil with hot to warm water and let that sit for about 10 minutes, and this will help to get rid of any pests that are living in your soil. You want to use a container that's about 3 inches deep. That will be enough room for the roots of the onions to grow during the time that you're keeping it indoors. You can put them in those small seed cells, but I found out that after some time you may have to go ahead and repot them. So I think the larger containers work well, or even your household fruit container would do really well for onion seedlings. I would also recommend a humidity dome or a cling wrap over whatever container you are using, because this will help the germination of the onions. If you have a heat mat or a radiator, I would also recommend using that additional heat source, because onions like to germinate at a temperature between 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you can provide your seedlings with some heat at the beginning stage of growing, that will be really beneficial. So onion seeds actually take 1 to 2 weeks to germinate. So once they do that, go ahead and remove the humidity dome or whatever you use to create humidity, as well as removing it from the heat mat. Onions actually like to grow in a cool location, so go ahead and find that. Have your lights maybe about 2 inches close to the seedling, and then as it grows, go ahead and adjust that lighting so that it is continuously about 2 inches from the top of the seedling. Once you see about 2 to 3 leaves, you can then start fertilizing your seedlings. And I would go ahead and use something like the fish emulsion. I have another one and I'll put it on the screen, but you just want a balanced fertilizer. Check the back to see what is the recommended dosage for seedlings, and then go ahead and follow that instruction. If they don't have specifics for seedlings, I would just cut the dosage for mature plants into half. You do not want to feed your seedlings the same dosage as you would for mature plants. It would just be too much for it. You want to stop fertilizing about 4 weeks before you intend to bring your plants outside. Make sure that you are continuing to bottom water your seedlings. Once they are up, you just want to give them some time to slightly dry out before you go ahead and water again. Because of the amount of time that they are indoors, the onions will start leaning over where the leaves are kind of getting too long and the root system cannot support it. So I would recommend that you go ahead and trim your onion tops and keep them at around 3 to 4 inches tall. This would prevent your onions from focusing on the leafy growth and more on creating a strong root system. So now that I've gone over all the fun but maybe a little bit tedious details, I want to show you guys the onions that I'm growing this year. You guys know that last year I grew the Alsa Craig, I grew the Utah Yellow Sweet Spanish, as well as the Red Weathersfield. I decided to drop the Alsa Craig from my growing list because they just get too big. Even though I had them growing with 3 seeds together, it was still too big. I like to have my onions small enough that I could completely finish it with one cooking. I don't like to have to cut it and then store it away. So that's why I've taken Alsa Craig off. It also was the quickest one to sprout, so I ended up using those first. The next one to sprout was the Utah Yellow Spanish Sweet, or Utah Yellow Sweet Spanish, and I didn't realize that it actually says it on the packet that the Yellow Sweet Spanish has fair storage characteristics. So I would like to look for another long day variety of onion that has a longer storage, because I do find now that I still have the Red Weathersfield, I am missing the yellow onions, and I'm trying to just go ahead and use the Red Weathersfield for everything, including the recipes that I would use yellow onions for. So a new to me variety that I'm going to be trying also is the Ruby Red, and this is a deep purple variety that is ideal for long storage and will last up to 5 months. It is a bit spicy and savory, which makes it perfect for salads, highly reliable with excellent yields. So because I didn't have another packet of the Red Weathersfield, I'm going to just go ahead and plant the Ruby Red. I think I may be getting, you know, very similar taste and stuff to the Red Weathersfield. I'm also going to be planting some spring onions or scallions, and I just plant these in one container. I put a bunch of seeds in them and I plant them out just like that in a bunch, and that's how I like to harvest and grow my spring onions. I will be trying this shallot, and this is a long day variety. It is a mix between garlic and onion. They provide a delicious mild flavor with much more sugar than onions or garlic. Shallots are able to be grown in many soil conditions and many climates. They can be overwintered in the soil to harvest the following year as multiple smaller shallots, similar to how garlic grow, or grown by seed and harvested first year, much like an onion. So you do have choices in how you grow this. But I have gone over everything, and now let's get into starting our seeds. Welcome to my official grow area. Along with the outside sunroom, I do have a portion of my basement that I have my light system and stuff set up. I'm gonna do a video on that, probably the next one. So I will go through everything that I use to grow my seeds indoors with equipment. But we are going to be starting our onions, and I'm going to be using this tray that I've used for dyeing yarn, and it's such a versatile item. I'm so happy I invested in this because now I could use it as a tray for my seeds. So normally I use the smaller cells when I'm not planting as much onions, and I don't start it as early. I think last time when I planted onions, I started in March. This time, I'm going to be in these containers for a little while, so I want to make sure that the roots have ample space to grow. So I have these containers from Root Trimmer, and I purchased them through Amazon, and I'll link them down below. But I found them to be a bit sturdier than the cheaper ones that I purchased initially. So it's been a nice upgrade. Maybe a few years down the road when these break down, I will find something else. So this is the soil that I use, and normally I have it in the Ziploc bag, but this is a new bag and it's already pre-moistened, so I'm going to take the shortcut route and just go ahead and use this. Oh my goodness, I forgot my glove in there. And once you grab some soil, you just want to pack it in nicely, just to make sure there's no air pockets. I'm leaving this little lip so that I could then add some soil on top in order to cover the seeds. Once you have it packed in, I like to label them first, because if I put the seeds down first, what's going to happen is I'm not going to remember what seed is for which variety. So I'm going to make my labels, but first let me check the package to see if I already had some labels. I'm not going to grow the global onion again, so I'm just going to go ahead and cross that out, and instead I'm going to label this the ruby red onion. All right, so let's start off with the ruby red. I put a lot of seeds in these because I'm just going to end up separating them later on. And onions is actually pretty easy to separate. Does not mind being jam-packed in at the seedling stage, so it saves me on space, so that's why I'm doing that. If you start out all your soil containers at the same level being filled, it's easier to tell what needs soil on top versus what doesn't, because they will all be the same level once you are complete. And these are the little sticks that I'm referring to that I just go ahead and take out. So if I haven't sprayed it underneath, I like to go ahead and spray it on top. I cannot find my sprayer, so I'm just going to do a gentle watering on top, just going back and forth so that it's not pooling in one area. Make sure you're getting all the corners, especially if you sprinkle the seeds all around. Okay, so once you do this, I would go ahead and use some cling wrap. So this is what my tray looks like. Very simple but heavy. So now we're just going to add it to our heating mat. This will stay on the heating mat until it germinates. Once it germinates, I'll go ahead and put it underneath possibly this light system. I'll probably put it down a bit so that the lights can still be close to the seedlings and it'll have enough space to fit. So this is where I'm going to leave you guys. I hope you found something in this video that will be helpful towards your onion seed growing journey. I will be returning for other videos when I am starting to harden off my onions, as well as when I'm going to transplant. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.